The following video is a product of the Blue Orchard Bee and the Charlotte Mason Institute, who hold the copyright. You are encouraged to share this file with your friends, family, and colleagues. Do not republish this information in any format, including electronic or digital, without permission from the Charlotte Mason Institute. Ideas suggested in these files do not necessarily reflect the views of the Blue Orchard Bee or the Charlotte Mason Institute. Information provided here is not to be perceived or construed as professional advice in matters of mental health. You are encouraged to work closely with a mental health professional provider that meets your needs. Welcome to the Blue Orchard Bee. It is now spring 2023, and we are looking forward to sunshine and happy days outside. In this session, Danielle speaks with her colleague, Christy Maher. Just a reminder, the Charlotte Mason Institute Centenary Conference with the University of Cumbria is the third week of July in Ambleside, England. You can learn more on the CMI website by clicking on Gatherings. The new Charlotte Mason Alviary is also available at the CMI website. You can learn more by clicking on Alviary Curriculum. CMI is now offering courses for parents and teachers, and at the website under Resources, you can learn more. Now let's listen to Danielle and her colleague, Christy Maher.
The most common challenge that we tend to hear from caregivers is in figuring out what's going on with their child and what to do about it. So a lot of times they'll write in and they'll say, I believe that my child can do such and such, whatever that thing is. They just don't want to. Or I think that this child just has a heart issue. So what do you think about that? What do you say to parents when they're struggling through that discernment of trying to figure out how to respond appropriately?
When you sent me this question, I thought, okay, how am I going to answer this? I spent a lot of time really thinking about it, and I just thought, there's not a quick answer to that one. There's not, here are the 5 handy tips to give to parents. It just doesn't seem to work that way. As a therapist and a mom who has 2 neuroatypical kids, and we also homeschool, I kind of eat, sleep, breathe all of it. And I thought, okay, what would I really want to know as a mom? What would I say to a client, to a parent? And I think at the end of the day, it's less of a strategies question and more of a philosophical type question or discussion. First would be, my therapeutic answer would be, let's reframe how we actually view our child. That may mean that we need to re-educate ourselves and how the world thinks kids should be a certain way. They should act this way, and they're supposed to be doing this and this and this. And we even encounter that even if we have neurotypical kids. There's this expectation that they're supposed to be a certain way. They're supposed to, do all the sports things. They're supposed to do all these things and everything. And you always hear, oh, you homeschool. Oh, are you kind of weird? Do you walk around with bonnets and, long dresses or something like that? It's like, no, we're just regular schooling people. So I think we have to kind of get some of the stereotypes and the preconceived ideas out of our mind of what, for one, is normal. Normal is relative. And so educating ourselves, okay, my child may not fit into this particular square that the world thinks that they should fit into. And that's okay. but you actually have to be okay. So it's less of a, what about my kid? How can I help my kid do this? And how can I help them be this so that way they can fit into this preconceived idea? And rather, as a parent, how can I be okay with not fitting into the cookie cutter? Not fitting into all of that. So when I'm reframing my children, my concept of how they're supposed to be, for myself, what I've done as a parent is I've re-educated myself. And I've read books, and I've done those things of like, okay, I really want to try to understand some of the struggles that they do have, because they do have struggles. And I want to respect them as persons and understand as best as I can what their particular struggles are. Because I would want to do someone to do the same thing for me. So there's kind of that empathy piece. And the question of, I believe my child can do such and such, or they have a heart issue. Well, so they might not want to do something. I mean, there are times when I don't want to do something, and I might just be like, I'm tired, or I just feel lazy that day. So we have to acknowledge that does happen, and that's okay, because we have those same types of experiences. But then we also need to think, well, is there something else going on? Is there actually something else? Like, are they feeling overwhelmed? Does this seem really difficult beyond what they believe that they're capable of doing? And me just saying, well, you can do it. Come on, you can do it. Someone tells me that, if I believe I can't do it, I still am not going to do it. And my kid, my 9-year-old, is definitely not going to do it. But she is much more likely to try if I treat her with kindness, if I have that reframed idea of, this might be hard, but I do believe that she's capable of some of it. And so let me try to help her achieve it. And so coming alongside her and trying to connect with her with that, maybe being a little bit curious with her. And so I think that's a part of it. But they might also just be resistant. No, I'm not going to do it. They might just throw a fit. They might have a temper tantrum. They might stomp out of the room. They might completely shut down. And so recognizing that there's something else that still, again, may be going on, that the fear may be too much. And so they may have this learned behavior. Either I've allowed them to have the learned behavior, or it's just something within them they've decided that they're going to do, that this is what I need to do to avoid. And I don't even know that this is specific to just neuroatypical kids. I think it's probably for all of us. So again, it goes back to, as a parent, me reframing the concept of who they are and what they need. And, there's also this other piece that, when I first discovered, it clicked, okay, there's something more going on here. Discovering, figuring out, okay, they've got these sensory issues. Maybe they're not. And I think that I became overly compassionate, overly, empathizing, oh, they can't do that. Let me just, and I think I started to create this environment of this learned helplessness for them. And then I was like, man, I'm getting tired of doing everything for them. This is exhausting for me. I can't do this. And I just think it had to be Holy Spirit that said to me, they're more capable than you allow them to be. It may not be what I think that they should be, what the world thinks that they should be, but they are more capable. And so I had to just be like, I'm not respecting them as a person. And it's really easy to either be overly compassionate or under compassionate to them. And so, there always is kind of this balance of what are you capable of doing? Sometimes I push them too far and I get the meltdown because I've pushed them too far. Or there's like, oh, I don't feel like doing this. And there's all of this other stuff that, you've got to deal with. But ultimately it came back to me. And what did I need to do as a parent? The Bible talks about how we need to die to self. And to me, that piece of that, when we become a parent, we quit being the selfish individual person and trying to meet the needs of our kids, trying to help them to grow. And I think as we go along the journey, whether we homeschool or not, we try to help meet those needs the best way that we can. But that requires a lot from us. And there is a lot of that dying to the self. And so it fluctuates day to day. And I think parents having some grace for themselves while also having grace for their kids. But being aware that some things are just not going to get done today, and that's okay. And being pleasantly surprised when all the things get done, or maybe even a little bit extra gets done, which doesn't usually happen very often, but being okay with where we are in the moment, instead of me having the expectations that we need to do more, be more, to meet some preconceived worldly ideation of how our kids are supposed to be and who I'm supposed to be as a parent. So, so I don't know if it's so much of a heart issue with the child as it is a heart issue with us. And I think when our hearts are in the right place, our child's hearts will be in a better place. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Okay. I'm going to throw you a curveball because you just made me think of something.
Okay. All right.
I'm
totally unprepared for this.
Yeah. So something that you just made me think about is being a scientist, and we talk a lot about in science how we have to be comfortable with a certain amount of uncertainty. And so I wonder if some of this is the process that we need to go through as parents, of being comfortable with a certain amount of uncertainty and needing to be okay with figuring things out, and that relationships can be messy and that kind of thing. Do you see that? Have you experienced that? What are your thoughts there? Am I in left field here?
No. Okay. So you semi cut out on me for a minute. So I want to make sure. I think I know what you're asking. Are we basically at the end of the day? Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm totally misinterpreting. Being okay with the uncertainty that kind of just pops up, and how to handle that, or.
Yeah, well, I'm wondering if some of the struggle that we have as parents, right, and that what you were just talking about, having wanting things to be a certain way, right? If things were that way, then we would be confident and certain about how things are going to go, right? And so it seems like some of that is this, like, oh no, wait, that's not the way it's really going to be.
Yes,
it's going to be uncertain, and I have to be willing to struggle through that.
Yes, 100%. You're right. Yes, that's what it is. Okay, because that's the dying to self piece.
Yeah,
for me. I mean, I always joke and say, well, if everybody would just listen to me, things would go really smoothly. But no one listens to me. And that's why everything is crazy right now, I say it to my clients sometimes, and they're like, yeah, and my kids have about the same kind of response. And they've really taught me, my kids have really taught me that life is really, really messy. And living that and being okay with it. I think one of the biggest things for me in all of this was when I was reading, I couldn't tell you, I assume it's like maybe in the first volume of Charlotte Mason's books. And she said that the Holy Spirit was the greatest teacher or something to that effect. And I was like, yeah, okay. Cognitively, that sounds really great, and then also working with, trying to change my mindset that this is how school is supposed to work. And this, we're supposed to do these worksheets and we're supposed to drill these math facts and we're supposed to do these things. And my kids are supposed to be this way by this time. And realizing that none of that is what they need. And that at the end of the day, I can do only what I can do. And the Holy Spirit's going to take over the rest of it. And that he's there, even in the messy pieces, especially in the messy pieces, he's there. So that gives me a little bit of comfort. Again, it's a moment by moment challenge. Because some days we're all on, and then some days we're all off. And I might get 5 minutes in to something, and then something happens. I don't even know what happened, but something happened, and there's no returning from it for the rest of the day. And so my school day it's done. And it used to really bother me. And I have to go and take a few minutes to myself and regroup. But I think that was God sorting it out in me. I think that was, again, that dying to self peace and having to kind of work through some of that and be like, no, it's okay. I'm just going to reframe our day. Instead, we're going to go outside and we're just going to have one long, really great day of nature study. And I'm going to count this as science, and it's going to be great. And we're going to have fun. And they're going to get some physical movement in, and the dysregulation's going to decrease, and we're going to connect, and we're going to be outside, get some vitamin D and some fresh air. And we're going to have a great sensory experience. And that's usually what happens. And so just got to try it again the next day and see. Hopefully we have maybe not a better day. I don't know that I'd say a better day, because that outside time was actually really wonderful, but have a day where I can follow along with my lesson plans. So I know I kind of really condensed all of that, but that has taken me years of getting to that. And it's still really messy. It's still really hard. And just being a therapist doesn't mean that my house runs smoothly and that I do all these really great interventions. And because at the end of the day, when I'm a parent, I'm a mom that gets tired and exhausted and fatigued by all the things. And so that's why I say we have to have some grace for ourselves and make sure that as a parent, we have our downtime, because I get sensory overloaded. I get a lot of questions, and there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot of emotions to deal with on a regular basis, and not just from one kid, but two kids at the same time sometimes. So acknowledging my own sensory overload in the moment. Okay, it's gotten too bright in here. It's gotten too loud in here. Mom needs a break. You guys can go outside and play. Go play Legos. Go do something. Just don't burn down the house. and I just need my time. I'm going to turn the lights out, have some sunlight, or I might, maybe go for a walk or something out like that. So I think a big piece to helping regulate our kids is making sure that we're able to regulate our own selves. That's probably first and foremost about everything else. Because if we're not regulated, our kids aren't going to be regulated whatsoever.
Thank you for listening today. Not long now before Lent is over and Easter Holy Day comes. What a joyful time. We will see you next time.